Time being 5 o'clock on May 27, I call the Personnel Committee to order. All the alders are here, so we do have quorum. First up is approval of minutes. Since I'm the only one on the committee that was here, I'll go ahead and move those if someone else wants to second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. And everyone approve?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, aye. So those are approved. Then we have public appearances for non-agenda items. We don't have anyone in the room. We didn't have anyone call in, I presume?
Nope, I did not have any emails.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to our agenda items, the first of which is the Chaplaincy Program Policy, introducing a policy and procedure for a volunteer unpaid chaplaincy program. And I will let you speak to that, Sarah.
Sure. Do we need a motion or is that after?
Is there a motion in order? It doesn't say on the agenda that there will be a motion.
Okay, yep, so for all three policies, we'll need a motion to approve on all of them. So I don't mind moving forward. I just wasn't sure if you needed to make a motion before I start talking about it.
Yeah, they would.
Okay.
So I would take a motion for approval for that.
Second.
I said I would take. You want
Make a motion to approve the chaplaincy program policy.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Alrighty, so this is a new program that the city has not had before. We are looking to bring on, in a volunteer unpaid basis, chaplains, and I say multiple chaplains because we're not necessarily looking for just one. Basically, this is someone who is trained in empathetic listening, and this would be someone that could support, or multiple people that could support all city employees. This would be in conjunction with our employee assistance program, our peer-to-peer support network, our police and fire wellness team. So it's a holistic wellness approach for all city employees, and it's pretty common to find chaplaincy programs in a lot of police and fire departments. So that's why I've got the police and fire chief here to speak if they would like to on the support of the chaplaincy program. In the policy, we talk about the role of the chaplain, we talk about the qualifications, and we discuss, how we go about appointing people to these volunteer unpaid roles. So I want to turn it over to one of the chiefs if you want to show, speak on behalf of the chaplaincy program, or if anyone has any questions.
I'll start it out. One of the things that we were looking at with the overall employee health program was to look at a multifaceted approach. We do know that in situations of post-traumatic stress, critical incident stress, substance misuse, not everyone responds the same way to outreach and help. So it's important to be able to offer a variety of different variables in the way of assistance. We know that not everybody on our departments in our city responds well to faith, religion, chaplaincy. So this is not an attempt to push any of those items. It's just to make certain health aspects, outreach programs available at those levels when they're needed for those that do associate with that level of assistance. So one thing that's of value to note here is the fact that this is a volunteer program. This person is not being paid by the city. We are open to a number of different it's not even clergy. It's really just people who have the ability to lend an open ear. It's that constant, gentle presence that allows us to establish a rapport so that we know when somebody's not acting appropriately or typically based on their personality. So that outreach can happen right away. One of the things that I brought up initially with this is I'm pretty fervent about being somebody who's freedom from and freedom for religion. I don't want to tell anybody how to worship, but I also want to make sure that I don't tell somebody that they can't. or at least look at things from a spiritual standpoint. So this is really a matter of just being open to the variables that exist with mental assistance, mental fitness, and to be able to provide the support and assistance that's required almost immediately following something of a traumatic situation. So that's some of the stuff that we put out there. I think another important thing to note is I actually paid a visit to the folks at Freedom from Religion and had a really good conversation with them. We know that there's one thing that they want to make sure is that all employees have equal standing when it comes to assistance, and that religion is not forced on anyone. And those are important aspects to address when we talk about chaplaincy. The chaplaincy program is an overarching program that is not necessarily intended to be faith-based. It really is intended to be that constant, gentle presence.
So there's not a lot more than I can add to than what's already been said by Joe and Sarah, but clearly I do have an interest in having this as an option for the police department employees, the city employees, and also our community members whenever there may be critical incidents that happen in the community. The chaplain, members of the chaplain program could potentially be utilized to aid crime victims, the victims of a critical incident, fire, natural disaster, those sorts of things. They could be beneficial, at least in the short term, to allow people an option for someone to speak to, perhaps direct the resources, be another set of eyes for us in our neighborhoods and our communities to determine if somebody could potentially use some assistance. But I think this program just adds an additional layer to the service that we provide our community and to our employees, not only in the public safety fields, but throughout the entire city. And as others have mentioned, this isn't something that's going to be forced upon anyone. It really is just another option that's available between employee assistance, between peer counseling, between the public safety wellness team, and other avenues. This is merely another option that is available for staff who may feel more comfortable talking to a member of a chaplaincy program than they would an unknown person on an employee assistance program phone call. So obviously I support it. I appreciate the work that the city through Sarah has done. I appreciate the work Joe has done in leading the charge on this, so to speak. So if anyone has any questions related to the police side of it or any other things for me, I'd be happy to answer that.
Another thing that I would recommend is that we do have a wellness website. It's something that's included on the emergency management briefing that I send out to council every week with the COVID response. But First Respond Well gives you a really good overview on some of the things that we have available citywide. And I would echo what Chad said. Sometimes these resources are of extreme value when dealing with the general public. And I say dealing with, I mean working with, I mean providing assistance to those that really need somebody to just have that open ear.
Questions, Gabrielle?
Hi, thanks for that nice overview. I'm curious about other municipalities. Is it typical that these positions are unpaid? And if it is unpaid in other municipalities, is it difficult to recruit somebody to take the position? I'm concerned because it's such a specialized and such a role that needs a lot of experience. Is it difficult, or do people tend to be eager to take this kind of role?
So typically those that fill these positions see this as a calling. They want to assist. Sometimes it is clergy, sometimes it isn't. It's a matter of somebody that wants to serve their community. We actually did initially try to see if there was compensation potential with this position, but based on legal interpretation, it was best to leave this at a volunteer position, and Sarah can explain that a little bit in greater detail.
Yeah, so with all of the policies that we bring forth to the Personnel Committee, we always run them through our employment attorney, so Mike Westcott. So originally we thought this would be a paid position, but after further review, they actually found it's most common that it's unpaid and in many employers. So that's why we kind of went that route, is it was the guidance from our employment attorney.
Further questions?
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm curious, is there going to be, I saw that there was some advertising for the position listed in the document, but is there going to be outreach to like local faith communities since you know, faith leaders tend to be somebody that could fit the bill for this type of position? Is that part of the outreach strategy, or is that not going to happen for any particular reason?
We have a regular meeting with our faith and civic leaders, but we're being a little bit cautious with just making it available to faith leaders. It may be somebody who is secular or non-denominational that still wants to provide this assistance. There is no requirement for it to be faith-based, and we're skeptical to provide any type of job description element that would limit it to somebody who is ordained or in faith-based organizations.
I would very much agree with that, Joe. What I would hope, and I don't know if this is kind of the plan, is to end up with a pool of people that would want to be on call and have the most appropriate person for whatever the circumstance might be to respond. The one group that I'm thinking of, I know there's a group that works up in District 1, up in my neck of the woods, that ends up attending any kind of shootings or neighborhood disturbances and things to help calm things down in the neighborhood. Would you be planning on working with that group among others?
We are open to working with any group that has the intent of being the empathetic ear. I think Sarah brought that up. I think we also need to understand our network. So we don't need a bunch of people on staff, but we do need to know where to find the resources for those that represent with a certain community. That being faith-based or otherwise. So to be able to have that available, sometimes a chaplain is the best person for that. We have other support workers that we can use in certain situations, but just knowing where that network lies and that we have a relationship with them in advance is critical, and sometimes that chaplain is the point person.
Excellent. Tom?
I think it's a good idea, and the thing is, Sarah, though, I have a question on, is it limited to one person, or it could be 2 or 3 chaplains? It could be somebody that's a Lutheran or Catholic or even Black Hawk Church. Is it just, where are your numbers on this? Could it be more than one?
Hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right, sorry about that. My internet is all of a sudden unstable, so I might have to call in. But yes, we can certainly hire more than just one. So yeah, we would be looking at multiple different, it could be someone who doesn't have a denomination, or maybe it's you know, different folks that have different background. Yeah, I mean, we're not necessarily for the idea of just one person with one certain denomination.
Camera might be better, or your internet might be better if you turn off your camera.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I will do so. Start video.
Yeah,
Okay.
what I'd also be hoping for is social workers, people that work with people that work with domestic violence and things like that, that would want to be on call to help respond to things. Anything else on this one? So we can vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And no one opposed, so that passes. So we can go on to item B, is the employee resource group policy. It says introducing a policy and procedure for the city to allow for employee resource groups, in parentheses, ERGs. Make a motion?
Motion to approve the employee resource group policy?
Second.
Thank you. And Sarah?
Right. And thank you, Chiefs, for your time. You're welcome to stay on if you'd like, but thank you again for speaking on the chaplaincy program.
No problem. Thank you for your time and attention. I do have another meeting to get to, so I am going to excuse myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to excuse myself as well.
Oh,
Thanks
sorry,
for coming,
Chad.
guys.
Thank you. All right, so going back to the employee resource groups. So we sent out an all-staff email probably about 4 or 5 months ago, and we had about 30% of our respondents that indicated that they would be interested in what are called employee resource groups. So these are 100% employee-driven. We've got a really strong policy in place that basically highlights what they are. It's an invitation for employees to come together for a certain purpose to bring initiatives forward. So to give you examples of types of employee resource groups, you can have one that's directed just for veterans and veteran families, one that is focused on multicultural initiatives, one that's focused on LGBTQ+. There's a number of different focus groups that we can have. And so there's the establishment of an ERG. We've got some criteria here, and then we've got kind of what is the goal when they meet. They would be taking minutes and be tracking kind of what they're working on. An ERG is about 5 members at least. And then basically just kind of, we also highlight, what's the role of HR with ERGs? What about the managers? And what about the actual members? So really it's exciting to see this at other organizations. I've worked at other companies where they've had ERGs, and it puts more power in the employee's hands to move things forward. So it's not just one person in the organization's responsibility to make things happen. So this policy was also ran through with our employment attorney, and I actually used this model from the city of Milwaukee. So they were kind enough to share their policy, and so a lot of that is borrowed. But yeah, that is the employee resource group. Do you have any questions about that one?
Questions? Go ahead, Gabrielle.
I guess my question is, do these groups kind of pop up informally and then this is an effort to make it official, or is this coming from HR first and you think that the staff will respond with resource groups that they want to put together?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So there's an application form, and folks can actually put down what their interest area lies in. If they can find at least 5 people who are interested in all coming together to focus on that, then they can move forward. So it's still like a process where HR and the managers, we're all kind of talking about it. So it's not necessarily like a free for all, like someone can just decide, oh, I'm going to focus on something that maybe has nothing to do with the workplace. And now we've got employees meeting and working on things that have nothing to do with the city of Fitchburg. So that's not the goal. So we have a lot of roles and responsibilities in this policy that helps shed some light on what is permissible and what an ERG isn't. So we're not going to name such focus groups. We don't want to tell people what to do. We want employees to come up with those ideas.
Yeah, three that I wrote down while I've been listening is people that bike to work. I'm certain would love to put together a little bit of a group. Parents and some of what they have to deal with as working parents, and people that are interested in ecology, green Fitchburg kind of things. So those would be 3 groups that I think would be really fun to be part of.
Yeah, Dorothy, can you tell me those one more time? I'm sorry. I think my computer was a little glitchy there. Working parents, you said, was one of them, right? Mm-hmm. And what was the other two?
Interest in ecology, Green Fitchburg.
Oh, okay.
And bikers, people that bike to work or want to,
Yes.
I know we have bike races that we have city teams for.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think that that would be of interest.
Those are great ideas. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone?
I'm good. I'm okay.
So ready to vote? Yep. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
And no one is opposed? So that passes. Thank you. Next, then we have telecommuting policy, introducing a policy and procedure for the city to allow telecommuting. And I take a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to approve telecommunication policy.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. This is a really exciting, I mean, all of these policies are exciting, but this one especially, it's very near and dear to the heart of a lot of the employees right now. As we're all kind of just trying to work.
Yeah, you might be breaking up too badly.
Yeah, Sarah, I think you're going to have to call in now.
COVID and we have to be home because our kids' schools or daycare centers are closed. But this addresses telecommuting ad-hoc. Whoops, what was that? Can you hear me okay?
You're going to have to call
Are you
in,
there?
Sarah. That was,
All right, I'll call in.
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
She sort of
Number.
Brown's teacher.
I agree. Yeah.
My apologies, everyone. So going back to the telecommuting policy, so this is a policy that we are looking at. Can you hear an echo? Because I can go shut off my video if you like.
I'll do it. I'll shut it off for you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Alrighty, telecommuting policy. So a number of our staff are working from home right now. What we want to be able to do is provide teleworking remotely, even after COVID, hopefully sometime soon here. So we've got in this policy 2 different types of working from home arrangements. We've got the ad hoc arrangement and then a formal arrangement. An ad hoc would be, you've got someone that maybe has doctor appointments later in the day, and rather than coming into work and then working and then having to, kind of go back and forth, it gives them the opportunity to have a little bit more flexibility. It could be they're working on special projects, or maybe they're not necessarily feeling the greatest, but they are, maybe they have something contagious and they shouldn't be coming into work, but they feel well enough to work from home. So those types of arrangements we want to allow department heads to approve without going through a formal acknowledgement form. And then we've got the formal arrangement. So this is someone who maybe wants to work from home, twice a month, or have a set schedule of working from home. But this isn't looking at 5 days a week or anything like that. This would be, maybe a few times a month, and this would be something that is formally arranged and signed and worked through with HR as well. So there's a number of considerations in the policy. We talk about technology, we talk about security, we talk about eligibility, right? Because this isn't something that can happen for all employees in all positions, because some of our positions really don't allow for telecommuting opportunities. So this policy, when it goes into play or if it gets approved tonight, we would be looking at implementing right away. And for any employees that are working from home due to COVID, we would have a formal arrangement with where we'd have the acknowledgement form. So that is a policy, a really quick summary of it. Let me know what kind of questions you have. I'm happy to answer those.
Pat?
If I could just add to Sarah's summary here real quickly, this is something that we're seeing throughout municipalities and other other levels of government. This isn't unique to Fitchburg, but it's really something that has grown, that's been sort of taken in by the business world over the years and sort of leaked in to local, state, and federal government jobs also. So we're not trying to break new ground here. We're trying to get up with the times. We're trying to give our staff as much opportunity as they can to get their job done, but to have some flexibility. And I fully support this. I'll be the first to admit that I was a little bit skeptical about this telecommuting policy prior to COVID. But after seeing our productivity and the dedication of our staff during this time, I'm 100% behind it now.
It's good news. Tom?
Sarah, I guess for Sarah and Pat, I just make a comment here on this. I guess my hesitation is let's push the clock forward and hopefully within 6 months this COVID gets over. But all I'm saying, let's get over that, and the COVID situation is over. All right. Mm-hmm. And then I'm big in morale problems. I'm big into, I'm not going to say this very often. I'm big into, when I was mayor running a city, that you don't have morale problems. And one way you can get morale problems, and I'll just give you an example that I'm thinking about, and if you can correct this, that's fine with me, but you got morale problems in a city and you got problems. And the situation is, if the department head okays somebody and then it goes to the city administrator and he okays somebody, okay. But let's say Jimmy Smith always has it and Mary Jane wants to have it and she doesn't get okayed. So he, for the month, is not coming to work and working from home 4 days a week. I'm just making something up. 4 days a week, and Jane, she wants to work from home and she only can have 1 day. You can really get a morale problem here, and I'm trying to avoid it. I would strongly say that the department head has to okay it, and then it should go to somebody else. May it be Misty, may it be Pat. The mayor's not always here, so I'm going to take him out of that. But I'm just concerned about, now again, keep in mind, I'm kind of bringing this up after the COVID's gone, after it's all over, and I think where you're going with this is you want something in place for the future. And I'm just kind of concerned about where this is headed. And Pat, maybe you can clarify that.
Yeah, I think we've addressed that. That was a question that Sarah brought up during the writing of this policy. And Sarah, do you want to explain how we've sort of answered that question per se?
Yeah, so with this policy is, I'm hearing the echo again. Are you guys hearing the echo?
No.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, so this policy is a draft policy from another professional association, so it's pretty standard policy. I can tell you that we've actually lost staff because of not having that flexibility. As we try to recruit new employees, being able to offer that flexibility and being able to work remotely here and there is so important, especially to the younger generation that's coming in. So by not offering this, it also affects employee morale because employees see other employees at other organizations being able to have this opportunity, including municipalities. So that's just something I wanted to point out to you. But yeah, looking at the policy, I mean, we worked with department heads pretty closely to make sure that this made sense and that, if an employee wants to work from home or work remotely, they do need to talk to their department head. They need to make sure that it's approved. And any kind of formal arrangement will definitely have to go from department head to human resources to be approved. And we're not looking at 4 days a week or, something outrageous where people are working at home all the time. I mean, basically, people have to be available to help the public. So there's a way for our IT departments to have their work phone, basically that it gets, the calls go to their cell phone. It's not like their cell phone, they're using their cell phone all the time to make these work calls. So, I mean, there's all these different security and IT measures that we can take to just ensure that the public, when they need assistance, are getting that assistance. Whether someone is working in their office at City Hall or if they're working remotely at a coffee shop, for example. We want to make sure, number one, that the public is always being served.
Yeah, and if I could add to that a little bit, Sarah, to Tom's concern in regards to, Jimmy being able to get the opportunity to work from home 1 or 2 days, in a week or in a month, whatever that may be, and Jane not being able to, and they have the same jobs. I think that's where you have morale problems. We would definitely make sure that the department heads are trained that they need to be consistent with the employees, that if this opportunity is available to somebody, that it should be offered to the other individual if they work similar positions. Obviously, we're not going to be able to give this position to a police officer, or this opportunity for a police officer or a firefighter, or even, somebody that works our front desk. The clerks that work the front desk, they may not have that opportunity. But definitely, where it would make sense to me would be like someone from the finance department that has the opportunity to work on a computer at home. I think, that would make sense for a certain period of time. An engineer who's reviewing drawings upstairs, they all would have the technology, per se, to work from home. Now, in my position, there's some positions here that are really critical to be available to the public on an ongoing basis, and those are where we would need to be careful. We need to make sure that there was coverage all the time for the public. If somebody is working remote, that they have a backup in place and we're able to serve the public, which is our customer. So that would be my philosophy in administering this policy.
Yep, exactly. The consistency is key. So making sure department heads know that everyone has that opportunity, and that, yes, if you have 2 people in the same classification, making sure that we're not just approving work at home arrangements for one employee, but that we're looking at the possibility of both of them having that flexibility here and there. But ultimately, I mean, we still have people in the office. Our goal is still to be there and available. It just offers up another avenue for employees to use to have that flexibility.
More questions, Gabriella?
Follow up.
Just a follow-up, then. Just give me a follow-up. Sarah, I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to go back to Pat's comment. And that's where, okay, I don't know how you're going to handle this, because here's the deal. You've got protective service out there, and they're not going to have this opportunity. I get it. I know how it works. But then you have somebody at the front counter the front counter, the front desk as you come in, that doesn't have the opportunity. Now let's take that further. Let's say that person, one of the gals that works the front desk, her child's sick, and she can't take off, and yet somebody in the Parks Department takes off and because their child's sick and they're home. Do you see where I'm going? This can be a cluster. I'm not sure how this is going to play out. Now, the person at the front desk, I would be mad. I'd say, look, I can't take off because I'm at the front desk here, and yet Parks, somebody over here in Parks, in the highway, they're home today, and because their child's sick or had tonsillitis, you're creating a problem. And I'm just trying to not create that problem is all I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. No, I totally understand your concern. And we have that very situation going on right now, right, with COVID. I mean, we've got our non-essential or non-emergency responder employees working from home, where our clerks department at the front are still coming into City Hall every day. We've got our police officers out, our firefighters out, and they don't have that same opportunity to work from home. But so I completely understand your concern. I do feel like being able to provide that benefit, even though we can't provide it for all employees, is really important to the employees that do have that opportunity. I mean, that's the way I'm looking at it. I'd rather provide that benefit, at least for some of the employees, rather than not providing it at all. And we do have, when openings come up, everyone has an opportunity to apply for a different position. So, if someone's in a role right now where they don't have that ability to work from home, when the position becomes open or a different position comes open, we encourage our staff to apply for openings that they're interested in.
And it would also be made clear to all employees right up front. I think that would be important too, noting that, here's the position you're working in, you're applying for or interviewing for. During the interview process, we would tell them that their expectation is that they work from the office or they take leave time, whereas some of the other staff within the city has the ability to work remotely sometimes. So I think knowing that up front would sort of smooth over the situation a little bit.
Is there opportunity for various kinds of, I know some positions are very specific, detailed, whatever, but is there a possibility for cross-training people so that they can kind of change positions with people so that others get a chance to do some work from home opportunities?
Some departments might be able to offer that up, but when you think about our clerks department, for example, they're the front counter staff. So even in cross training, they might still not have that opportunity. It really depends on the department and the department's services that they provide.
Gabriella.
But I do, yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, Sarah, I when I was reading through your HR report that we'll get to later, you mentioned that you do an HR survey, or you have done one. I wonder if, to address this concern that Tom has, is that some questions that you could be included in a future HR survey so we can ascertain if people are feeling uncomfortable with the situation, if things have changed with morale, we can reassess in 6 months or 8 months and just check in with the staff and make sure that everyone's on the same page?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can always, our HR survey that went out about a month ago was about HR's effectiveness with staff. So how well we provide services, how well they're satisfied with a number of different things that we provide. So if we wanted to, absolutely, we could send out another all-staff survey to gauge how people feel about their benefits, including telecommuting, and just, we can include other questions as well. But yeah, that's a really great idea to just gauge how the workplace is feeling or how staff are feeling.
I think we could also do this, if this body approves this, maybe we report back in 6 months and then again at a year and let this body know how it's working and to see if we are getting complaints from staff or are we getting accolades from staff. So I think that would be a way to go too, is if, this body approves it with a condition that we get a report back at 6 months and 1 year.
To reevaluate it. I would think in the meantime, the rumor mill is probably fairly active already about it. So I'm guessing you guys would hear concerns that employees are having already. So since this is public, I'm certain by now they're talking about it. Gabriella.
Yep.
I just would like to make one more. Go ahead. Sorry, Sarah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we shared the policy with all of the department heads, and a lot of times department heads then take all of these, the updates that they get at department head meetings to their staff. So staff are definitely aware that this is in the works. I don't necessarily know all staff are aware of this, but we'll email this policy out tomorrow if it's approved, and then give people a chance to check it out, read through it, talk to the department head. But yeah, we probably will have a better idea of how many people are utilizing this 6 months from now, and how people are actually feeling about it, how it's overall working.
Gabriella.
A comment from me. A lot of my friends that are younger in their careers, flexibility is immensely important. I know so many people that would give up a significant amount of their salary just to make sure that they have flexibility available to them. So I do think that a telecommuting policy for the city is a tool to recruit the best and brightest, which I think only does good for the city of Fitchburg. And like Pat said, in a post-COVID world, things are different. People are more used to digital work. They're more used to video conferencing, things of that nature. And I do think that we need to adapt, because I think a lot of companies and other municipalities will adapt. And if we don't, then we are potentially going to open ourselves up to losing good staff because of a lack of a benefit. So I'm definitely in support of this policy. So.
I'd mostly just like to get rid of the masks. Anything else? Tom?
I guess I'm going to go back on this a little bit. And Sarah, I understand my bark isn't as bad as my bite, so nothing like that. But, boy, if I was working for the city and you said to me, and I've been here 10 years, I can change, maybe I misunderstood you, just help me out if I did. I can change departments and go to a different department if I want to get on this policy. I would be, here we go with morale, I'd be very offended. And you just don't want to do that. I mean, when people apply, and you got to remember too, we're running a city here. We're not running a business. We're running a city with what? Pat? 300 people?
270 full-time equivalent.
Okay, 270 full-time people. That's a lot of people. And we're running a city. We're not running a department store. We're not running a warehouse. We're running a city. And I guess I like Pat's idea about maybe 6 months coming back and at least seeing how this is working, and going with that. I'm okay with that, I guess. I'm just concerned about the morale. I'm very honest about it. You don't have to agree with me, the panel on the committee, but I'm concerned about the morale in the city. You're having some things for one group of people and others aren't. And I don't want to bring in, I don't want to bring in unions, and I don't want to do that. I'm not trying to do that. But I think you want to give it a trial period, like we said, for 6 months and see what's said. That's fine. But that's my concern about it.
Pat again?
I would, just in terms of Robert's rules here, are you making proposing an amendment to the original motion, or are you just bringing that up for conversation purposes?
That's well taken. You're well taken. I would like to just get a report back in 6 months, if it's okay with the committee, and just see how it's going. I guess talked about, a policy they fill out. I don't want to get into all that. I'm just saying, how's it going? Or you can tell us too.
Yeah, we'll
make that motion if it's all right with the chair. Just like get okay it, but okay it for 6 months and let's have a report back. That's where I was going.
So add that in as in every 6 months?
From my position, and Sarah, tell me if you disagree, but I'd recommend that we give a report at 6 months and a year, and if it's going good at a year, I would like to just continue moving forward with the policy. If we have concerns to the point where it's affecting morale of city staff, then obviously we're not going to like that either. So we're going to come back to you with that concern. Mm-hmm. But I would say reports to this committee at 6 months and a year would be, well taken by myself at least.
Mm-hmm. I totally support that. I think that would be a great idea. And we can send out just a survey just on telecommuting and see how things are going.
And we can consider that a friendly amendment to add in then?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
If you're okay with it, yeah, that's fine. 6 months and a year, that's fine.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on the amendment then?
Vote on the amendment first, then the original motion.
So all in favor of the amendment? Aye.
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 And then the original as amended? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right. And we're going to give Gabriella the floor. Discussion regarding appointment of committee/commission members.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate, Sarah, for you being willing to bring this forward to the Personnel Committee, and thanks to my fellow alders for letting me chat a little bit about some of my ideas. I talked about this in council a little bit, but I was interested in joining a committee as a citizen, and I felt that the process was a little bit unclear and did not feel like I had all the information that I needed to feel like I was empowered to be a part of the city process. And I do think that there are potentially a lot of citizens out in Fitchburg that have interesting skill sets or a keen interest in city politics or city policy, and they're not aware that they can apply to commissions and that that's an option to them. And so I would propose taking a look at some options for how we can, number one, advertise the positions more widely. Number two, look at the application process to make sure that we have some measure of vetting. And then number three, looking at term limits considering term limits for committee members. So we could break this down in a couple of things, but I kind of broke it down into six different topics. How the application process goes, and I do believe that the mayor already made some changes in that the application processes can be done on a rolling basis. People can apply for any committee that they're interested in, whether or not a position is open. So that's number two. Number three would be how we advertise the openings and how we make sure that it's done widely enough that people are aware. We're recruiting new people to apply. Number four would be the reapplication process. So for current committee members that would like to be reappointed, what that looks like. A small note about the confirmation process would be number five, and number six is a discussion about if we'd like to talk about what an ideal composition of the committees, each of the individual committees looks like, because I know there were some concerns from some of the alders and maybe mostly the new alders about what is the type of person that we're looking to recruit, so that maybe we could do some active recruitment if we're missing applications from people that we think would make an ideal committee to serve the city. So I guess we could start with maybe advertising openings. If anyone, I have some proposed ideas, but I'd be interested in hearing what my fellow committee members have to say. The CETA and the Board of Appeals had vacancies recently. We obviously just confirmed the new Board of Appeals, zoning Board of Appeals member, and CETA member probably is coming up at the next committee meeting. But I have not been seeing this regularly on social media, and obviously that's only one venue that we can do it, but I wonder if there's some way we can strategically put into place an advertising plan through social media, through the Fitchburg Star, other ways to make sure that people are aware that openings are happening.
Gabrielle, I just want to let you know, I did get some answers to some of those questions.
Great.
So we do routinely advertise committee vacancies via, there's like a news flash on our website. So it's something that someone would have to actually sign up for. I don't know if any of you have signed up for news flashes, but we also post on social media and Fact TV to recruit applicants. It looks like those are the main ways. So Fact TV, our city's news flash website, and then social media. I'm guessing it might be Facebook.
It's Facebook and Twitter.
Those types.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter. So we do put that information out on social media.
And committee members also. Well, I'm sorry.
No, and I was gonna.
With recruiting.
Yeah, I was going to state also that most recently, after the council had that discussion, I believe it was shortly after the election here when the new council took their seats, is we did put a big flash out on our website about serving on city committees, and we also contacted the Fitchburg Star and let them know that if they would add something on a regular basis, state that if you'd like to serve in the city of Fitchburg, how you go about it. So.
Great. Yeah, I do think that in my personal opinion, I do think that there's not necessarily a wide awareness that any citizen can apply for a commission. I do believe that some people think that it's an appointed position, that you have to be selected by the mayor through some, black box process that people aren't aware of. I'm not sure many people realize that they could just throw an application in if they're interested, and that they don't have to have a high level of expertise in order to apply. And that's the thing, is I'm worried that there are these great people that could bring something new to the committees. Maybe, sometimes we have difficulty finding a group of people to apply, and I think that making that very clear. So, I can plan to write some opinion pieces in the Fitchburg Star. Maybe that would help with clarifying the new process for the city to take applications on a rolling basis and being able to apply for any of the ones that you're interested in.
And if I could just add one other thing, Dorothy, I know Tom's sat in local government a long time, and he's been in the mayor's seat also for several years. And I'll tell you what, in all my years of local government also, it's first of all, it's very difficult to get volunteers for these type of positions, and there's always openings, and we're always searching for those opportunities. And it takes a person that's really willing to dedicate a lot of their personal time to serve on these committees. So I think as time becomes more and more precious with kids' activities, schools' activities, everything else, there are other priorities out there, and it just from my what I've seen over the years, it's hard to get people to serve in this capacity, and the people that do volunteer, you hate to see them get turned away, and I've seen that happen in this community before. Those type of vetting purposes, and you see committee members or board members get voted down and turned away, that leaves a sour taste in a lot of residents' mouths. I'll tell you that. And I don't know if Tom wants to add anything from his experience.
I think Gabrielle's heart's in the right place. I don't question that at all. The thing is this, I kind of like what I'm hearing though, like maybe the Fitchburg Star or other places we could advertise when there's an opening. But I can tell you that I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just, from Gabrielle's standpoint, I just want to fill her in a little bit. the committees out there, when people are interested, and Dorothy, you know from the county, when people are interested, they'll apply. They may not get picked, but they'll apply. When people ask me about a committee, if they want to be in the Plan Commission, or hey, how can I get on Police and Fire Commission or Parks, I always tell them to apply. I don't say wait for an opening. I tell them to apply so their application's on file. I don't care what it is. Somebody, not too long ago, it's been a while, ran into me at the grocery store and said, I want to be on Plan Commission. And I told them to apply. So it's not always easy to fill these seats, and we don't want to make it difficult because, one, people won't want to serve. Pat, I bet you're going to back me on that. They won't want to serve if there's, and I'm not saying Gabriel's saying that, it has a lot of red tape. You don't want to serve because I'm not going to serve and dedicate my time for $15 a meeting. I don't know what it is, but whatever it was, and people that serve on these committees, I mean, we have 2 people in the city right now that are on the committees for over 20 years, and I'm not going to get into it, and they're all good people. They're good people, absolutely good people, but they've been there for 20 years. And the thing is people have their own interest. If I like riding my bike, and I like greenways, and I like the parks, what do you think I'm going to apply for? I'll apply for the parks. And you don't have to tell people that. But I like the idea of having the openings, have the mayor, the city put it out there when openings occur so that people can apply. I like that idea. But I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel because, people just apply. They do. They apply. I know the mayor, sometimes you're frustrated because you don't have applicants. And believe it or not, we don't have applicants. But if they see the star, they see social media, and they say, oh, we have an opening on Parks, or we have an opening on CETA. Oh, there's an opening on the Police and Fire, whatever, So my comment was, I'm trying to make it simple, but get the word out. I think that's a good idea. Yeah. That's a good idea.
I think one of the things that she's saying, and I think she's absolutely right, is probably the vast majority of the people don't even know that we have committees. And I think if we kind of stirred those waters a little bit, we'd find some really, really good people.
Yeah, inspire some people. Yeah. I guess a couple of things, I agree, Tom, the people that volunteer to step up and do public service they're great people. It takes a lot to do that. It's a lot of work. And it's not necessarily well appreciated. But I will say that I am, as somebody that's new going through the process for the first time, the reappointment process was something that was really notable to me because I would have loved an opportunity to understand why the people wanted to be reappointed. Like, I don't necessarily think we need to go a huge barrier, but I would propose that perhaps we should consider when people want to be reappointed for another term that they fill out a new application and just talk about why they want to continue their term. And I would also love if people would come and just do a couple of minutes at the council meeting. And obviously now with COVID, that's not an option, but I do think that there's something really valuable about hearing somebody speak in their own words. And these are people that wanted to show up for meetings. So I don't think asking them to attend a council meeting and talk about what they're passionate about and why they're passionate about it. I also think that that's an incredible marketing tool for committees. But when we talk about, if you have this group of people saying why they want to come back and serve again, that's a great way for us to demonstrate the value of serving on committees. And so I just think that would be, I would love to see that during the next reappointment process next year, us going through a little bit of an application process and maybe a minor vetting process where we take a look and see what their attendance rate is at meetings and make sure that they're, just make a consideration. I'd be interested to hear what the committee has to say about that and what Pat has to say as well.
If I could add just to the attendance statement you just made, that's one thing that every mayor that I've worked with here and in other communities always has asked myself and the department heads that staff the committees is when a reappointment comes up, we make sure that the reappointments are attending on a regular basis. And so usually a mayor won't bring someone forward that has had a poor attendance history, but we'd be happy to give you that data, the information in regards to attendance and stuff, because, you know, it's in all the minutes, it's easy for us to get. So I think that shows a good level of commitment if people do attend their meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You just made me think of something, both of you, when you were talking. You could even put something, I know I'm going out on a limb, but you could even put something in the tax bill that if you'd like to serve on a committee, see the city staff, or, you know, something like that. That would be, I mean, you're talking, you want to hit the city? I just hit it for you.
Yeah.
It would just be something short. Don't put any, I want to make this clear. Don't put any committee down because you don't want to have one versus another. It would just be, if you're interested in serving on any committee in the city of Fitchburg, please see the city staff.
Mm-hmm.
And now, let's go further on that, just what I was talking about. They want to be on the Parks Committee and the Parks full. Well, I would encourage, I think they do, I would encourage the person that comes to the counter to fill out an application and put in the file. I don't care who the mayor is, it doesn't make any difference, but I mean, at least, you know, it's there. And then something like that, now you've just hit the whole city. And just a thought, I mean.
Well, you've hit the whole city of homeowners if you put it in the tax bill. You do not hit the whole city that includes renters.
Well, I wonder if there's other notifications that go out, you know, with the recycling notifications for recycling days. Is there something we can put like a little note on there about, other things like that we might, that's great. It's like a great tool.
I didn't think of the renters, that's my bad. But you're right, no, renters, I didn't mean to overlook, because a lot of good renters want to be on a committee, absolutely. It was just a thought, you know.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like STARS, because that gets delivered to every address.
And I guess one of the other things I'd like to just have a quick discussion about is thoughts about term limits on committee members. And I wanted to see about maybe perhaps bringing forward a resolution so that we can consider it and have a conversation as a committee and then as a council about that. I understand, like, I was surprised when I heard that some people have been serving for over 20 years, and while I'm like pretty impressed and that people are willing to serve for that long, I just wanted to ask the question, if that's best practice? Because I know when you're talking about, you know, a nonprofit board, I'm a nonprofit professional, so that's my background. And nonprofit boards traditionally have cycles where you're on for a couple of terms, you have to cycle off, and then after a certain amount of time, you can cycle back on. And sometimes people are allowed to continue serving over their term limit because that's needed for the organization, and they make the exception. But I wonder if we should consider a term limit policy, and like if that overturning of committees, I want to see, does that have value? Is that something that we want to consider? And I'd just like to have that discussion.
It's always been in the past, to help you out, it's always been in the past that the mayor has a trump card. In other words, he can appoint somebody, and that's what's happened over the years. He can appoint, he or she, whoever, could appoint somebody to the committee for another 2 years, whatever. And the city council, as you know now, the city council can deny that person. And then the mayor has to go back to the drawing board and bring up somebody else. And so, I mean, it's always been up to the mayor. I guess my comment back to you would be, how long are you talking about? Are you talking about 2 terms? Have to be like, I'm making this up, 4 years? Or what's your thought on that as far as your term limit?
I think it's a great question. I don't think it's something that I've come to a decision on. I would be interested in looking at, you know, model like corporate boards or nonprofit boards or other municipalities if they have incorporated term limits, and see what other people have done, and just kind of do a survey to consider what the pros and cons are.
I'm going to keep you on the government side. You know that. I'm going to. You learn it from me quick. I'm going to keep you on the government side. Sun Prairie, Mount Horeb, Monona. You can get off on the business world, but it's not like running. You're finding out. You're finding that out. That's my thought. I mean, I always like to compare the bigger cities our size. Sun Prairie, Middleton. Because Pat's here, I'll say Monona. Monona, and see what's out there.
Yeah, I would be very interested in doing a survey. If anyone has, I'm actually curious that the question I have is there a good way, because I have some contacts of people that are elected officials in other municipalities. Is it just a matter of reaching out to the city staff in each place and asking them who to contact?
Yeah, we can take care of that.
That would be fantastic.
If this body requests us to look into the length of terms and term limits in other municipalities, that's something we can do. So I'll instruct somebody to do that.
Great. Yeah, I would make that request. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
And if I could play just a little bit of devil's advocate with your, just because I want you to see both sides of the argument here, is that, I said earlier that it's hard to get people to serve, first of all. There's several individuals that have served several years on specific or the same committee within the city of Fitchburg. I think one thing that brings to the committee is that knowledge of the community that a lot of the other committee members look up to. Having that experience of working in their field and having that expertise, I think, is something that's valued not only by the other committee members, but also by staff. So that's one thing I think you need to look at, too, is, if you have term limits, all of a sudden, then we're getting rid of somebody that's served on a committee for 18, 20 plus years. That's a lot of institutional knowledge we're losing.
Pat's right, but I'm going to counter that a little bit. He is right. I'm not arguing his point, but I'm going to counter that with you have that individual that's been there for that long, that too many other committee members are following and you're not getting new ideas. I've seen that happen more than once, where they'll follow Jimmy Smith and they can't think for themselves and they don't even do their homework because I can tell when somebody didn't read the agenda. Mm-hmm. They follow Jimmy Smith, but they didn't read the agenda. They don't know some of their questions are off the wall. And it's like, wait a minute. So there's two sides to that sword. You want to keep that in mind. And I don't have a number either. Gabrielle comes to the top of my head. Maybe 10 years. That's a guess. That's a guess.
Yeah.
That's just a guess. But I don't want to discourage people from applying. That's what you don't want.
Yeah.
You don't want to. Well, I can only serve for 2 terms, and I don't want that. You just don't want to discourage people from that either.
Yeah. I agree with that. It's interesting because there is that balance. It's the balance of institutional knowledge versus new ideas. And I do wonder, and I don't know enough, I haven't seen the whole history of the committee, so I can't speak to exactly what happens, but I do wonder if the same person gets reappointed every time, not undeservingly, but if they keep doing it, there might be somebody that potentially could be added to the committee that would bring something new that we're missing every time.
Let me jump on your comment. They also might have an agenda. I'll just leave it at that. And they may have an agenda where they're going with it, which I never did. I just, as you know, I left and came back, but it's all about the city like all of you. It's not like, if I want to run for the administrator, I would have told them by now, But, the thing is some of those have agendas.
Yeah. Anything from you, Dorothy? I just make a couple more comments. I am interested, so this is great to get this feedback. What I would like to do, I'm really excited that Pat can do some outreach to other municipalities and see what term limits look like, and maybe if there's any specific policies that they do for their committees that they think it works well. And I think as a next step, I might do some research myself too, and maybe write up some draft resolutions so we can maybe start working out details, and that we can consider them and maybe bring them on and off the table, have a discussion, and then when we feel like we have something that seems like worth a discussion, we can bring it to council and have a conversation with the Common Council as a whole. Does that sound like a good next step for everybody?
Mm-hmm. It does to me.
Great.
It sounds like you're working on it, or even bringing it back to this committee before you bring it to council, maybe in 3 months, just whatever. I just threw it to mind. Bring this topic back, not for just.
No, I think we should. Yeah, I totally agree.
Just maybe it's up to the chair. Maybe 3 months or something, or whenever. I know. I want to ask a question about further meetings when we get there, but I mean, it's up to the chair, but maybe 3 or 4 months down the road.
Right, I would think that Sarah and Pat would kind of determine when that might be, depending on what their research shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can play it by ear a little bit, but I would prefer to bring it back to this committee for further discussion before we move it to the full council.
And one thing that might be worth talking about in looking at people with greater expertise versus people with a strong interest, there might be a little bit of forgiveness in differing term limits for differing levels of expertise. Might be one factor that could be worked into it.
It's all good discussion.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much for indulging me. That was really helpful. And I think we could probably move on then. Let Sarah get to her report.
Okay. So Sarah, you're up again then, report from department.
Right. And I've had about 50 Zoom meetings last month, and this has only happened 2 times. This is my second time that my computer glitched, so I am so sorry about that. It's so strange being on the phone and trying to not having that visual. But anyway, so going to my HR department update. So we've been super busy with COVID. So HR has been drafting new policies, new application forms, because we have to track all of the absences related to COVID-19. And then, of course, all of these new policies, including the telecommuting policy. We've been busy getting EAP resources out to all staff, as this is a really stressful time for employees. And just trying to prepare, how do we get people to return back to work in terms of making sure the place is clean, that we're keeping people safe. So HR has been part of a planning team to put together everything from a guide to employees, about face masks and temperatures and all of that type of stuff, and then to cleaning and disinfection protocols. So it's really taken up a lot of time in the HR department. And then recruitment-wise, we are really kind of at a standstill. So we are evaluating every vacancy that pops up and really evaluating whether we need to recruit right now. The good news is that our turnover is pretty low. We did have our Director of Public Works resign, and so that was our most recent hiring that we had. And then we had some plans for an admin intern, a planning intern, and all of our recreation seasonal employees. And we actually had to cancel those new hires just because, recreation, the summer recreation programs are all canceled. And just having an intern, having someone close by to basically shadow is just not a good situation to have right now with COVID. So recruitment, again, is at a standstill. So. And then I put on here future projects. So, this report can change based on what your needs are. Basically, I started this report last year at the request of the Personnel Committee. And basically, they wanted an update on kind of, recruitment, turnover, why are people leaving if they're leaving, what kind of projects HR was working on. So this is something that can certainly be changed and updated. And typically, personnel meets every other month. That's the last personnel committee team. That's how often they want to meet. But if you want to meet more often, or if you're looking for more information at every meeting, just let me know what you need, and I'm more than happy to bring that forward.
Thank you. Speaking of last session, I know I've got one thing that was left on the table, and that was a discussion of asking employees if they would like to bring Ask Me back.
Oh, okay. And you said you're looking for like a survey? Is that what you just said? I'm sorry, it's hard to...
Well, I'm not entirely certain what the legal standing is for the city to say we're going to bring Ask Me back. I think we need the employees to basically request it. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would love to encourage it. So I'd like to.
Why? Can I ask you why? Why do you bring up Ask Me? Why do you bring up the union?
Well, we had talked about it in the last couple of years. I've had requests from various people to talk about it because a lot of people don't like the fact that it was taken away. So I don't think the city does things that employees object to. I think we take excellent care of our employees, but I think there's still people that would like to have that representation available.
I think Sarah have already said it, though. I think that has to come from the employees. It can't come from an elected official.
We can talk about employee associations if that's what you're looking at when you say possibility of bringing back Ask Me. That's something to look into. I don't know all that would entail, and that we'd have to look at the pros and cons of the employee associations. Pat, I don't know if you wanted to add to that at all, or.
Pat left.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, sorry.
Alrighty. Well, yeah, that's something I can certainly add to my list of things to talk to Pat about, and then to bring I could bring some more information to the personnel committee, again, about like the pros and cons of the employee association, to see if this is something you would like for the city to strongly consider. Would you like some more research brought forward to the personnel committee first, or do you have a certain steps that you would like for us to take to look into that?
Let's put it as an agenda item on the next meeting.
No problem.
And then you guys can do whatever research you'd like to do in the meantime.
Okay, that sounds good.
Anything else that we left on the table from last session, or?
No, I think that is it. I do remember you bringing that up. Let's see. No, and we had talked about employee resource groups at our last run, so that's why I'm happy to see that policy here at this one.
Yep, I remember those discussions also.
Yeah. If you would like to see anything different on the personnel committee report from the HR department, again, just let me know, and this can change. This report looks pretty different than previous reports because I don't include turnover on here because COVID's really taken over since our last personnel committee. So I do anticipate, in future reports we'll be including, the turnover. Hopefully we don't have a lot of turnover, but we can include much more, recruitment status and all of those types of things.
Mm-hmm. I can certainly understand all that.
Just
go ahead, Tom.
Sarah, can I ask a question in reference
to
scheduling so I get this on my calendar? What's your situation with scheduling? From what I'm hearing, you're talking about every other month. I'm not holding you to this, but I just want to get it down. So it's every other month, at 5 o'clock, and it would be on the last Wednesday of the month. Is that what we're talking?
Yeah, that would be great if we could establish a set day and time, and whether it's the third Wednesday of the month or the last Wednesday of the month. I'm really open, so whatever works best for all of you. I can certainly make a reoccurring meeting and send that as a request to everybody.
I think there's some value in having it paired with the committee of the whole meeting. Does that a preference? I think that's fine to kind of stack them, but unless Tom and Dorothy don't have.
I don't. I'd rather move it up the second or third, just due to the
Well, let's
fact
do that then.
Here's the reason, though, Gabrielle, just to give you an idea. It also gives you more time to go home with your family or eat or whatever. And if you have a long meeting, you're bumping right up now to committee of the whole.
Strong point. Yep. Then I'm good with that. Yep.
All I'm thinking, maybe, we could talk about next time or whatever. Maybe just move it up to the second, or third Wednesday of the month. Whatever you think. I was trying to get it off the 4th.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
If that's okay with you two.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the second or third Wednesday. Would you rather do 2 weeks? It doesn't matter. I get that.
What I'm doing is Sarah can make the call when the meetings are, but what I was going to say is it would be see if I get this right, the third Wednesday of each month at 5 o'clock. Now, that's going to be every other, but am I thinking right, Sarah?
You know what? I do staff the Police and Fire Commission, and if I recall it, that is the third Wednesday of every month. So I will have to stay away from that now that I'm talking out loud here. I believe, yep, it's the third Wednesday of every month.
That's fair. No, I understand. That's fair. And so the third and the fourth, what's your second?
That will work if we do the second Wednesday of every month.
Wait a minute. I got to check with my colleagues. Is that?
That's fine with me.
Or every other month. Okay.
Probably
Is that okay?
for me.
Yeah, my calendar's pretty open.
Maybe
right now with COVID. So.
the second, I think I said that right, the second Wednesday of each month, every other month at the same time, Sarah? I mean, you're the one, and the chair makes a call on them. We may not meet in June, I get it, but I just want to write it down. Second Wednesday of each 5 o'clock.
Of every other month, I should say. I think I said every month, but second Wednesday of every other month. And our next one would be in July.
July 8th, it looks like.
Yep.
July 8th?
You got it.
Okay. July 8th. Okay.
And that probably works. What we might do is put out an email so that we can all recheck our calendars, because I don't have mine in front of me, and make sure. And then if it's a problem, then we can have Sarah put together a little bit of a doodle poll with some other options for us.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, we can do it that way.
Absolutely.
So, next agenda item is announcements. Anything from anyone? Then we move to adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. And thanks to